Hello. Alright, so past the immediate chaos that we have.
Oh my god. Teeth everywhere. There we go.
This is the long-awaited, not at all because I forgot it existed, footage of how I made my Jeepers Creepers throwing star weapon prop. I made this, and then I made the costume, and then I made it so that this would actually be able to quote-unquote fly through the air. And then I forgot it existed. I started off with some pre-existing, not real, obviously, but made from resin denture teeth.
And I thought these would be difficult to take off. I'm going to say that one probably looks the most.
And picked up which one would look and work the best for the ones in the middle of each of the throwing stars. The teeth I had were glued onto some plastic, and they weren't a full set in the way that they were made as if they were like coming out of a mouth. I didn't need to keep the color of them, so I simply used some oven-baked clay to add on and shape it into the tooth I needed it to be. Set those aside and began with the exterior bones, or what makes up the stabbing pieces, essentially. I wanted these to be fairly light, so I used aluminum to actually shape each one. Each throwing star has 4 of them, and I did make 2 throwing stars by the end. But once each pointed piece of the aluminum foil was shaped, I then used a past maker to condition and flatten my clay. And then I added it onto the aluminum. I wrapped them loosely at first and then shaped them and cut off the excess clay as needed. Once I had these shaped to my liking, I used a few different tools to make some texture with indentations and baby oil on my finger. I would make the indent, put a little bit of baby oil on my finger, and then smooth it out as needed. The indents were exclusively on the underside, also using baby oil to smooth the upside. And the opposite, as I said, being very smooth. I put them, as well as the teeth that I had added onto, into the oven and started on the coloring. The teeth got a simple base coat of white, as the color I would be adding on later, I knew from previous experience, went on better with a white base. As for the pointy pieces, I did a wash of a very watered down black on the underside where all of the texture was, and then dabbed it away so it would be very, very slight, but darker in the recessed areas. I followed that process quite a few times, flipped it over and painted a brown, being sure to kind of taper the edges to almost blend it back into the black just a little bit. As well as doing a general dry brush over the black with the leftover brown that was on the other side. Basically just going sideways and then adding another wash of black over top of the other side, dabbing it once again, but lighter this time. And carrying on with that to all 8 of them. While those dried, I moved back onto the teeth, bringing in the silver. These did need a few coats, but between coats I started on the base of this entire operation, with air-dry clay. Color does not matter, as this entire thing would have been absolutely coated in plenty of layers of paint in the end. I actually built these both 2 different ways. The first one, I wrapped each of the pointed pieces with air-dry clay and shaped it just a little bit. Then moved on to the next. Once the 4 were done, I placed a little bit of air dry clay in the middle and then pushed each of the bone pieces into the middle piece from the top. and then proceed to cut the pieces away and add pieces where I felt they were needed. Once the general base shape was done, I continued. I further added detailing, including a little spherical piece that I pressed the fake tooth into, and then continued adding more and more shapes and snakes of clay, etc., manipulating them and smoothing it until it looked like my reference photo.
It's kind of giving me like thumb vibes.
I wanted to remove it from my work area to fully dry, so I cut it loose and then added a few writing utensils around to give it more shape by holding the pieces up. With the second one though, which I won't drag you through the entire process again, but instead of doing the basic shapes and whatnot, and then adding detail, I placed the clay onto each of the bone stabby pieces and then detailed it right then and there, and then stuck them together after they were fully detailed and a little bit dried down. And then once they were both dry though, I added a wash of watered down brown, which wasn't completely necessary since I ended up adding it again at the end, but it was still part of the process. Doing the same thing as before with dabbing off the excess color, and then with a disposable sponge and the same color that I had used on the teeth, I dabbed it on right there. The only part I left without silver were the edges, partially because I wouldn't be able to get to them without a paintbrush, and actually partially because once I realized I wouldn't be able to get to them without a paintbrush, I actually kind of like the look of it, like agitated skin almost. Then I came back in with a wash of brown. And then to seal it all together, I added a coat of resin, which also kept the tooth in place further. The reason I had made two of them was because with one of them I actually wanted to give it a go to see if I could make it actually spin. As you'll be able to see, or you have seen in the clips I posted with the actual costume itself, I made it look as if I was throwing one of the stars and one was actually going because it's been attached onto something. But I was in the dollar store one day and realized that there might be a way to actually add something onto the back so it could spin in place. I got a green fidget spinner secondhand and I took the back stationary piece that you would hold onto to let it spin off, which was really easy. It literally just clicked off, and then I hot glued it onto the sturdy piece of wire and then glued the rest of the fidget spinner onto the throwing star. To make it actually spin, I just simply clicked the two pieces together and bam, I was now able to spin it. It's definitely not perfect by any means, but it's a green fidget spinner, and because it's a green fidget spinner, I was able to use a green screen in the final shots to take away most of the piece to make it actually look fairly accurate. That's it for today's video, and I do hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.